Hi again, Jean.
You too.
Interesting circumstances in which we meet this time.
I am just so happy. Siri's wanting to join us. I'm just so happy that we were able to connect and have this time together, because I think in these times it's so important that we deepen our relationships, and really, for me, the kind of intimacy that a crisis offers us really helps us to reconnect, to go deeper. And so I'm just really grateful for this time. Thank you.
I mean, and thank God for the internet, because it's such a gift, isn't it? I just, please let the internet continue, whatever else, because it's such a remarkable way of deepening those connections. The fact that we can reach across the world and talk like this.
It's amazing.
Absolutely.
That's really amazing. Yeah.
And we've connected online and face-to-face many times, but never anticipated these circumstances.
Yeah.
So certainly a number of people have asked me, and as I said to you, I've been doing some daily videos anyway, about how I'm coping. Imagine certainly wondering, how do you take all the learning that we've had over the years, and how are we drawing on that now?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
And I remember you saying, it's like, I agree, I certainly wouldn't be coping with this in the way that I believe I am without all of those years of preparation.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I'm so grateful. And, I think it's something that just gets reinforced time and again, that you and I have been doing this internal work for years. And so we're, at least for it feels like we are resourced in a way that maybe some other people aren't. And that can be quite daunting. And yet I would say, if you've never started, or if you're only partly on the journey, keep going, get started and keep going and do the internal work. And we can maybe talk a bit about that, because I think that internal work is foundational to how I and Benedict have been able to cope with this sheltering in place and all that goes with the crisis.
I recognize that I'm very fortunate, I believe you are as well, with the environment that we're in. Yeah. We're both in places where there's not the same level of effect as there are in other parts of the world. We're both in very sheltered places in many ways. It doesn't mean it's safe entirely by any means.
No.
But I'm not like cooped up between four walls. I've got space outside of it. So I recognize that's a huge factor that I'm very blessed to have that.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, where we live is, we're semi-rural, and, we can go for a walk outside, which we're doing on a daily basis. And, we don't have the same density of population as many places you and I work, which has real consequences.
Yes, like you were saying just before we started, like the slums in India and in South Africa, just like how can they manage that? Just don't know, how can they possibly stop spread?
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree with that. I mean, one of the things that I've been doing is, we talked about how do we bring hope, and how do we rise above the everyday crisis, all the demands that people experience. And one of the things that I've done is to really reach out to friends and colleagues and just said, let's gather together a group of your team and your whoever you want to bring, but minimum of your team, and let's just come together and share stories, share resources, and the kind of learnings that I think you and I have been privileged to get over these many years, that we have those to share, which is one of the ways that we're working to do that.
Yes, and it's something I actually meant to say in one of my daily videos, because when we run the groups, I think invariably people we all create a very deep and profound connection because of the kind of learning that we're doing. And I know that many of the groups connect via things like WhatsApp.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's something very important about taking time to come together as a group, as you're suggesting, to update where they're at and to almost, I know that they have very strong connections, almost to keep that alight, to really strengthen that. So, because they have had it, and I think people are often surprised at that level of connection and deep rapport and listening that they experience with people in groups. And to keep coming back to that as an anchor for where they are and how they can take that out into the world every day.
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole principle is that even though we may be physically distancing, we are not alone. And having built community like you're talking about is so critical, just to be reminded that we're not alone. And I know that just from my own personal history, that this whole thing about learning that I am being listened to by others who care, which was, there's like, do I have a voice? Am I heard? Those kinds of questions, early on growing up. But learning that exists and that there are those people out there who do listen deeply and who do care, and who are present in the moment, that is so life-giving, for me personally, but also I know for people that I work with and you work with.
I know many of them, my experience is that they don't realize how much they are loved, what influence they have by being the way that they are. I'm quite surprised because they don't get that kind of feedback in their daily lives. And when they do get it, they're kind of astonished. And yet it's apparent, what.
Well, and I would just say, we were talking about this a bit earlier, that this is a time of, there's a time of chaos and confusion and disruption. And it's a time to set new habits and to create new beliefs. And it strikes me that exactly what you're saying, that this is a time for people to recognize, own, and decide that they're loved. And the evidence supporting that decision is totally available in the kind of communities of connection that we're talking about.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, as you say, as we were talking just before about developing these habits, one of my friends here was saying last night, when we were on an online aperitif evening, because we normally have met.
I love it.
We normally have met down at the bar on a Friday evening. That was the pattern. So that's not possible. Bar's not open and we're not allowed to meet. So experimenting with things like this, like Zoom, which is an interesting experience for people who haven't used it before as well. And it's like chaos. And one of my friends, Johnny, was saying, well, what will be the future? Will people maintain the habits for the future? So I think there's an incredible discipline people need to develop and are developing and an awareness. And I heard somebody with a military background say, we'll be back to the good old days. And I thought, no, we won't be back to the old days.
No way. No.
So
good old days gone.
So rather than leaving us, into luck as to what happens, as you said, what habits can we be developing and cementing now that will be a part of that future? I think that's such a very powerful way to put it.
One of the things I'm really encouraged about, I mean, there's so many things to be concerned about, but one of the things I'm encouraged about is, in contrast, for example, to 9/11, which was an event. This has continuity to it. So the continuity means that our behaviors will change and be reinforced consciously or unconsciously. And so the likelihood of going back to where we were is, first of all, is inevitably no, we're not. But it's also the possibility that as we anchor in good habits, those will be more likely to continue. And so I think being very thoughtful about what are we doing today is significant. even like having this conversation, I think it's significant that you and I are having this conversation in this context. And who knows, that it could be that, for example, one habit that might get developed is that you and I might have a regular series of such conversations.
Yes. That would be good. I like the idea of that.
And but that's only a function of the fact that we've been disrupted, or I and you too, but we've been disrupted from our normal routines. And so to me, the idea of being thoughtful about what do we do now, because what we do now has the very real possibility of continuing into our future. And so if we want to see our future be what we'd love for it to be, then let's do it now.
Yes, absolutely. It is interesting what impact, like some things I've developed, which I hadn't thought about particularly consciously before, but they have emerged, like a real attention to discipline about how I manage, a real attention to discipline about how I manage myself in the day, so that I don't make, the days are actually remarkably full. I know some people say they're bored, and I think, well, no, I seem to have lots of things that I want to do.
Right.
And therefore doing things very efficiently gives me the time to concentrate on the things that are important, whereas I might have been lazy about it before.
Right.
So that's changing, for example.
That is such a great example. I love that, because I'm experiencing something similar. I would say the first 2 weeks of sheltering in place were like, whoa, it was like a vacation.
Yes.
But now it's like, wow, my time has really gotten full. And, it's like people, a lot of it's the reaching out. A lot of it is the kind of initiating into new things like these groups and stuff. As well as, fortunately, just my work and our work, that I'm able to still do one-on-ones, over Skype or Zoom or whatever. But my time has really been filled. And so being efficient is a very significant contribution. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, well, if I do that, that's going to create work for me later. So don't do that, or do it differently.
Right.
Which is interesting.
That's
I
right.
won't go into all the details, but it's interesting. But it does raise big questions about some of the very big things in life that I think that I know, have not been entirely right, like the amount of traveling by plane that I have done, for example.
And from what perspective is that? Is that sustainability? Is that personal health? What is the
impact on the world environment? Particularly.
And then there's this kind of, again, it just raises the question of balance, because your presence in India, for example, is tremendous impact in terms of developing. Yeah, it is. Come on.
Yeah. Yes. Sorry.
It's the balance thing, because I guess
I should know you'll catch me.
Well, it's that very subtle kind of.
I know. We need to have these conversations regularly, Gene. I'll get you back in a minute.
I know. I have no doubt about that. But yeah, I mean, those are the kind of really serious questions that we're needing to address.
Because it's there. It's a question for me, and I think it would be, the extreme would be to say, well, I'm not going to travel to India, and that would be, for me, it would be a huge loss.
No, that's radical. That is radical.
I think it's important that I think about that. I think, well, not just, I can relatively easily, be efficient in my home. What might be the bigger things that are going to be quite a sacrifice to give up? And I'm not saying I'm going to give up traveling to India, but there must be other things, of an equal kind of gravitas that it's going to be important for me to let go of, or to find another way, and in order to maintain that future that I think we have the possibility of having.
Well, what you're touching on for me is about releasing attachment. So, this disruption has caused me to just face enormous variety of things that I didn't even know I was attached to, and travel is clearly one of them. I love to travel, and I love the work I've done. And so it's just become a norm. But now, not being able to travel, and I feel that release, it's like it's being forced in a way. It's like,
Yes.
you're in place. You're not you're not going to the airport. But it's not just travel. It's really the whole of your life. And go, where am I attached? And I have to make a sacrifice, in a way, being forced now. But going forward, the question is, do I continue what was a sacrifice and then transform that into, a benefit of some other sort?
Yes.
And that's all to emerge.
You were talking about simple. I think it's remarkable how people are investing in so many online tutorials for things. So the surge in kind of online learning, I think, seems to be phenomenal for a certain part of the population. The fitness rate, and I think, wow, I have access to all these things that previously didn't regularly have access to because of the traveling, or it was at a place I couldn't get to easily. Now I can.
Right.
And I think that's an incredible sort of positive outcome. And fitness is a key one for me as well. I know it is for you too.
I was talking with a colleague yesterday, and she lives in New York, and I was asking how she's using her time, and I was really delighted to hear that she's a significant amount of the kind of time that's been freed up, she is using for her own development.
Yes.
And his very point that you're making about there's so many resources that are available. I mean, some of them are external, some of them are within the organization itself. And people are upskilling. I mean, people who have enough kind of mental and emotional space to do it are upskilling, and there's a real benefit to that for everybody as a result. And just in our own family, I was just so delighted. Our grandsons are teenagers now, and it's like, how are they going to manage? And their mom, she's incredible. She's got them on a schedule, which is spectacular. I mean, they're learning life skills, that they haven't learned before.
Yes.
Cooking, and they're doing their own laundry, and they're scheduling their school time, and they've got a weekly hike that they do as a family. They're eating together. I mean, so many really bonding, unifying reference experiences for their future that they wouldn't have had. I mean, they'd be going to school and be getting other things, but they wouldn't have had these. And now they had these within the context of the family. I mean, it's
I was listening to Ashok. Ashok was the person who took me to India, for those people listening, in the first place. And he homeschooled his children. So he said, and he's been doing.
Was he just starting to homeschool?
No, he has been doing it.
Okay.
And he's been doing programs for families and recognizing that, particularly in India, there's a lot of learning that's about memorizing things and factual things, but really the scope to develop children's imagination is not been there. And I was just listening to a bit of him speaking, probably listen to more later. He was talking about how you can have, go with children's stories. If they do watch a film and it's saying Superman, they can be Superman or Scooby-Doo or whatever for the rest of the day, and they can develop stories around it. And likewise, I know that my son, James, and his wife, Sarah, I mean, and she especially, because she's typically at home, incredibly creative. They were having a day on the beach in the garden last week. And I see that in many other families as well, that they've got this opportunity to develop the natural skills that sometimes get educated out of children.
I think so. It's incredible. But but then of course the other piece about that really is those families that are pretty well integrated, put together as individuals and as a family, can do that. It's one of my concerns is families that are dysfunctional. They live together and suddenly, boom. I just read that in China, the divorce rate has skyrocketed because of this kind of having to be self-quarantined, and people suddenly discover, I don't like you. In fact, I can't even live with you.
It might have been even worse if they knew in the first place they didn't like them, and now they're stuck with them. It's like, oh, goodness me. And part of me thinks, well, maybe together they'll learn to get on.
Some will, for sure. Yeah.
Yes, but certainly for some, must be.
I mean, that's also part of the creative destruction, I think, which is another concept that I'm paying attention to, you know, because the just again getting back to the disruption of what the coronavirus is doing, is that it's really destroying, you know, certain ways of living.
Yes.
Some for the good, some not for the good, obviously.
Yeah. So what would you say is a habit that you're challenging yourself, either as one to let go of, or to change, to develop, or acquire?
I mean, we can we can explore this further, but I mean, the one that first comes to mind is I mentioned to you earlier was I do a lot of kind of one-on-one coaching, you know, where I'm sitting, and I've read over and over and over, sitting is the new smoking, and, you know, et cetera. And I go, oh, you know, it's right. I should do more, you know, and I do. I exercise and I do stuff, but they say even you know, going to the gym is not an answer for that. And so one of the effects of this is that I have gotten a standing desk. And it was like, it was seamless for me to make that transition. And it's a new habit that is not going to go away. I mean, I've established it already, and you know, I even feel the draw to it now, whereas before I felt the draw to stay sitting.
Yes.
And so I'm not real sure what the underlying structure of that is, but I know that that's a piece of what's important.
Yes. I remember the Swami that we know and work with in India. He said, you know, chairs were the downfall of the Western world, something along those lines, because you lose that flexibility, you know, to move, to sit on the ground, for example, that many elderly people do have.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that's one of the things for sure. I think another one is consumption. Whereas, you know, I recognize, I don't know exactly how it'll manifest, but I recognize that we're living so much more simply now, just in these 2 weeks or 3 weeks that we've been sheltering in place. And I'm convinced that going forward, that we will live much more simply than we have been. And part of that just kind of, again, being in a rhythm, doing what you do, however you do, and not being thoughtful about it. And this has forced me to be thoughtful about, okay, what do I need and what don't I need?
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think one of the things that came to my mind, that this is, you talk about connecting in these ways. And there are people that I have disconnected with over time.
Yeah, yeah.
And I thought, this is an opportunity to plug those gaps. That doesn't sound very romantic, really, but I mean, it's to reconnect lovingly with people that I've gone through. I haven't heard from them, I don't deal with them. And that does feel like quite a challenge with some of the people that there's not huge numbers, there's a few.
I have a resource for you.
Yep.
It's something it's one of the things I've been doing, which is new, and I will continue as well, is there is when we were in Hawaii, and I was the kind of vice chancellor of operations at the university, we had a major conflict campus-wide. And I did some exploration and found a Hawaiian process of reconciliation called Ho'oponopono, which has now been modified. It's kind of like the new version of it, but there's online Ho'oponopono process, which is very simple. There's a guy named Hugh Lin who is kind of like the guru of it, and his story is that he spent 4 years as a psychologist at the Hawaii State Hospital, and specifically in the clinic for the mentally insane and the criminally insane. And they just had, obviously they had turnover in the guards, they had violence, it was just, obviously it was a terrible place. And he spent 4 years, never saw a single inmate. What he'd do is he sat with their files And he used what we would call identification. He would identify with the issues of that person, and he would then take them for himself and then use Ho'oponopono on it. And that process is very simple. It's 4 stages. It's, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. And he did that for 4 years and totally cleaned out the clinic. I mean,
interesting that somebody has said those words to me, somebody that have been disconnected from. Interesting, that's exactly what they said to me, and it was so powerful. I haven't had contact for a couple of years, and I thought, wow, how amazing.
There is let me look, there's a, I'll send it to you. There is a, I mean, there are,
I can put a link with it when I put this up.
There's so many versions of it, and you know, there's one I use I really like, which is so simple. All it is a guy with some background music saying, Jason Stevenson is his name, background music, and those 4 things just said do. It's like an hour long, and you lose yourself in time. I lose myself in time, and it's like it goes deep, and you just go, how does this stuff work? But it works. I mean, it's amazing. I've spent hours doing it, and that it's been it's not just in this 2 weeks or 3 weeks, but it's been over a period of time.
I value that, as I'm sure many people listening will do.
Well, you know, it's just the next level of forgiveness and reconciliation with people, you know, and you can, I've done it with I don't know, probably 1,000 people, an amazing number of people in my life who I never would have said I had unforgiveness for. And I discovered that, oh, it's there. Oh, no.
As you were saying this, one's popping up thinking, oh. Which is interesting, who's coming to mind at the minute. You think, oh my goodness, what have I let myself in for? A very special experience.
Yeah, exactly.
It is interesting, isn't it, what comes to mind as we have these conversations, as we talk about stuff. I think the other thing, Jean, that I think is really reinforced because of the discipline required. Like, you know, when there was the instruction not to touch your face, for example, and you know, people who were making those announcements were touching their face.
Don't touch your face.
Yes, exactly. So it's developing, you know, what some people would call a mindfulness and awareness of what we're doing. And I think that's kind of inevitable because of the importance of keeping distance. You just touched your horse.
I know. I just feel like it's like, don't do it. Yes, it's like.
I know. I did it this morning on the video going, oh, damn. But it's that conscious.
So NLP, isn't it? Don't touch your face, right? I
didn't put it as a command.
No. I know you didn't intend it. I'm just saying, what my unconscious here, right?
You just did though. Wash your hands first, people, if you're listening to this. Wash your hands before you watch this program. But that discipline, that awareness, and to maintain, because, you know, all that stuff I've done over years of movement, awareness through movement. It's the awareness that makes the difference. And the NLP is awareness of what we're doing.
Absolutely.
And how we're speaking. And I think that's almost, for people who are following the principles, it's a kind of inevitable outcome, and something it might be very desirable to maintain, to be aware of the behavior. Like, we've had so many things in the past year about politicians and their behavior, and how their behavior has undermined the words they use.
Oh yeah.
That's true for all of us.
Enormous.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so and it's true for all of us. So how to be aware so that the message you're giving is a congruent message.
Yeah, I think that's a really good principle. It's like, as you're talking, what I'm thinking about is the kind of internal dialogue, you know, and what is the nature of your internal dialogue? If I compare when I started in NLP with where I am now, the change is pretty dramatic of what my internal dialogue is. Because today, what I'm aware of is almost like a a focused dialogue, like, you know, what am I experiencing now? What was that observation? What is that observation? What effect did it have on me? How do I use, you know, what about that's true about me? I mean, all those kinds of really powerful questions have been internalized. And so that becomes part of that awareness filter of what's going on. You know, that takes practice, but it's something worth doing.
Well, I've noticed, you know, when I've had some thoughts, I thought, oh, you know, I started to worry about something. I have almost automatically stepped back and noticed that I'm worrying about something.
Yep.
So that stepping back is almost automatic. I think I indulge in the worrying sometimes with some things, but that ability to dissociate from it and go, oh,
right.
That's interesting, gives me that space and that choice to, it just gives, it takes away its power.
Yeah.
And somebody did say to me, I think I mentioned the term thought viruses, and someone said, oh, I want to hear more about that. And I think this is very much in that realm. You know, what's thought viruses? And what I experience when I'm coaching other people on the kind of classic ones, when people talk about what they want, and then they add on to it, because I don't want that, and they finish up talking about the not wants,
right,
rather than staying with the wants. I mean, that undermines and overrides the wants and the desirables.
Yeah.
And it's simple. Yeah. That's a simple example, but it's a very popular one as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, with that, you know, one of the things that I'm very attentive to, just to that dynamic of people who say, this is what I want, this is what I don't want, is to encourage them to go from what I want to that you already have it. So it's not it's not future, it's present. And if they can make that shift from future to present, then it's quite a different experience, because, you know, when you want something, you don't have it.
I remember you saying that in one of the programs, and that really went home for me, you know, because I kind of talked about I wants a lot with desire state stuff over the years, and I'm realizing actually that's the way of dissociating from what you have in the present. And I remember you saying that. Somebody said, I want something. You said, well, you're not having it that way. That's how you're not having it. That's something like that. Bring it into the present.
That's exactly
right. I thought, oh, yes. It was kind of an elusive obvious that became very obvious.
Yeah. Yeah. It's what part of the beauty, I think, of the structure that NLP gives us, that we can understand those kinds of things.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we have the awareness of many of the distinctions. So that we kind of can notice mostly what's happening with some blind spots as well, and then that's when it's useful to have somebody like yourself who will point out those blind spots. And, so that's an important role.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. It makes me come back to this thought that I've been having about, you know, a crisis or a disruption like we're experiencing creates a level of vulnerability in me and in us as people. And I think that vulnerability is a real gift to us. It's imposed in a way by the situation, but it also means that my experience anyway is that people are much more willing to consider things they never would have considered before, because there's a need that they have for stability, for structure, for, you know, for meaning. And many people are looking for it because they are so disrupted. And so I think, you know, strike while the iron is hot, offer what we have to offer, that kind of input makes a really big difference.
Absolutely. And I see so many people offering what they've got. I think that's remarkable. People are coming out and even offering what they've got. It doesn't mean to say they have to do broadcasts and things like that. It might be they're just offering what they've got in their home. But a lot of people are offering things externally as well. So it's one of the things that prompted me to do broadcast in the first place, was see how many people were stepping out from retirement and from their roles to offer their services, their skills that they'd kind of put to rest to some extent. I thought, wow, prepared to do that and put themselves on the line in a way that they are, this is a relatively safe thing to do.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. Yeah. You know, one of the things that you were talking about, habits, that just came to mind was that one of the habits I'm building in, for my future is the conscious mind attention to stillness. Actually, not just stillness as a result of, say, meditating or something, which is like this formal process where you enter into that, but I've kind of established a trigger for it, just in everyday moments, just go, I'm going to go still on the inside. And that could be for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, a minute, or longer, but with the idea that that's building the skill then to make it a way of being, that at any point I can be aware of being still without an agenda, without having to have an outcome, without having to be productive or any of that kind of stuff. And that has been a real gift to me from this, which it's been because of this time that I've been.
I would say you are a master of stillness. In any case, Jean, I've often said about those quiet times that we've had on programs. When I used to think, shall I say something? Jean's gone quiet. And then I learned to appreciate those moments. And also recognizing that sometimes people in the group think, nobody's saying anything. And yes, it's like a real coming together in that stillness when people embrace it. But it took me a long time to learn that.
It's a good example of what I think of as what I call the spiral. It's like, you develop a capacity. So I recognize that, and I value it, that, and I feel like this is just the next level of that, where it becomes, much more micro. And, I get that at the macro and the meso level, but now we're going micro.
Interesting. Yeah, because for many people it would be the other way around, wouldn't it, to learn the micro level in order then to extend it. But you absolutely had it on the macro level. There's no question about that.
Yeah, that's right.
And you're going to the micro now.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have a question kind of bubbling to the surface for you. What are you? Well, no, you may not have done it yet. It may have to be unconscious and let it emerge. But what is in your unconscious that is emerging for you to be transformed in this next time period?
Big question. Say it again. Ask me again.
Ask again. What is emerging from your unconscious that will result in you being transformed in this next time period?
Right. My ability, I have the ability, my willingness to love.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Mm.
And that's a big one.
Wow. That's massive.
Yes, it is. And it's...
I'm not thinking about this for you. I'm thinking about it for me, right?
Yeah, and I'm sure that, like me thinking about you, I think, wow, Jean, you do that. But I know myself that I can do certain things and be certain ways and will be with some people, but not universally. That, it's a big one to choose to engage with love consistently. Cool. And be provocative as well.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's part of your love. That is absolutely part of your love.
Yeah. Well, Frank Bowley being the source of that, always said, it only works if you do it lovingly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so that's definitely been, it's been bobbing around for me. And I had not yet committed to that. I know what's going to happen in this conversation. It's like, okay.
Now that you've named it.
I know, it's good. Yes, absolutely. We could just sit together and go, but, okay, no, that's going to be, okay, I commit to it.
Right. I love it. I mean, this, I think I know I've said to you before, but there's this movie called State of Siege with Denzel Washington. And it's a terrorist kind of movie, you know, he's like action movie type thing.
You look remarkably like him as well.
Oh, right, there we go. Yeah, well, that's a compliment. Thank you.
Yes.
And he's talking with his colleague, and they're discussing how they're going to address this terrorist attack that they know is coming. And his comment is, "The most committed win." And that has just imprinted itself on my brain, my mind, my soul. I mean, it's just like the most committed win. It's such a statement of truth. And I've used that for myself as like, you know, if I'm not the most committed, I don't get it done. And when I am the most committed, I get it done. It all kind of obstacles, all kinds of reasons why maybe it shouldn't be, but I get it done.
And those who are committed have influence, complete influence on themselves and on other people.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I doubt or incongruence.
Yep, that's right. That's right.
So then, that same question back at you.
Yeah, I think it is the, I don't think, it is being present in the, being present in, I don't even know the right words yet, but it's about being present. It's being present with God in the context of the spiritual, energetic dimension of life. The Lord's Prayer says, on earth as it is in heaven. And so it is a recognition, which I have, of the heavenly dimension. And
what were those last words? They got drowned out then. A recognition that you have of.
No, a recognition of the heavenly dimension. So in other words, I've had experience kind of entering into a heavenly dimension, which is, I don't even really necessarily know how to explain that, but experientially. But being present here on earth in that heavenly dimension is really what's emerging for me.
That's quite a big one as well, I'd say.
It is. It is.
You certainly weren't going to go for, well, I'll wash the dishes every time we've had a meal.
Yeah.
Mind you would really take me aback if you had come up with something like that.
Right.
Oh, you could put total populations into a state of trance if you said something kind of, and I'm not knocking washing dishes. I think it's something that would be a heavenly thing to be doing in their homes. Right. Everything can be heavenly.
Oh yeah. Oh, exactly. It's like as Brother Lawrence, I think is his name. It's like the daily activities of heaven. And it's all about your internal. No, it's Brother Lawrence. Sorry. What's the internal experience of how you do what you do, right?
Like Zen and the Art of Motorcycling.
Yeah, exactly.
Karen Armstrong in her book, Through the Narrow Gate, she was in a monastery and they had to do these very tough daily chores, and they became a very spiritual experience in the way that she eventually chose to do them.
Yep. Yep.
Yes. Well, I think. Are there any other thoughts that you think we might leave?
No, I think
That's probably a good point.
That was a good one to end on. I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to.
Won't get much like, well, yeah. No. Oof.
Yeah.
Thank you as always.
Yeah, it's so good to be with you. Thank you. Yeah.
I thank you because you've been such an influence on my life and my learning. Huge. That I wouldn't be where I am on big things or anything without that influence. God knows how long it is now, 30 years.
Yeah.
Just
yes.
It was an absolute gift. Somehow you came into my life. So thank you so much.
And vice versa. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
So yes, let's consider doing this some more.
Yeah, it's good. Great.
Stay safe.
Thank you. Yeah.
Bye for now.
Okay, bye for now.